Do a quick mic check real quick.
Can you hear me?
Got my brother K Dub on the line. What's going on, K Dub? How you doing, brother?
Yeah, I can't hear you. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. You got a lot of background
Yeah, I
noise.
can't hear you.
I can hear you.
Damn.
So we're talking about BRICS. We was
Yeah, I
having a deep
can't hear
discussion. I decided to go live so we can get into a deeper discussion about
Damn,
what
bro.
BRICS is.
I can't hear you.
Hold on. Turn off your video, then we go straight to sound because you're having some problems over there. Okay. So anyway, I'm gonna try to make sure he get his sound together. You can just go to the sound option versus the video option. But anyway, we're going to define what BRICS is because BRICS is an acronym that stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and as well as South Africa, and is a group of these five major emerging economies from different regions of the world. Now, believe it or not, this term was coined back in 2001 by a guy named Jim O'Neill. He was or is an economist for Goldman Sachs, and he coined this term as a way of identifying these growing economic powers, especially when you are referring to Russia and China. Now, these so-called BRICS countries are known for their rapid, excuse me, family. I guess my coffee kicking in. BRICS countries are known for their rapid economic growth, large population, and strategic geopolitics. And together, believe it or not, they account for over 40% of the world's population and nearly a quarter of the world's GDP. The BRICS countries have a foreign politics and economic association with the aim of promoting mutual trade and investments, as well as reforming global financial institutions to better reflect the global economic clout. That is going to be very powerful. And as we see that China is trying to essentially topple America's superpower by the way of their economic growth. This is getting very dangerous for us. So I'm gonna bring my brother back on here very quickly. What's going on, K-Dub? How you doing, brother? K-Dub, can you hear me? Going once. Going twice. K-Dub, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Give me a second.
Okay, what is your stance on BRICS?
Hold on. Give me 1 second.
All right, as he getting his sound together, we're going to keep tracking on here as he get his sound together, family. Now, what I want to do is show you some things that are forming right now in the nation. And they've been trying to pull in Saudi Arabia, which is the power foundation of America, because Saudi Arabia in the trading and the buying of oil has always been, or for a very long time, been in U.S. currency, in the U.S. dollar. So there's something that's shaping up right now, and this is as of yesterday, that I think you guys should be well informed about. Okay, well informed about.
I can hear you.
Let me share my screen with you. I want you guys to follow along with me because this is very important. Okay. So when we're looking at this story right here that's done by Newsweek, it says while Saudi Arabia is following Iran to join China and Russia's security bloc. This is one of the tall tale steps that Saudi Arabia is really giving some thought to joining BRICS. Okay. I'm going to read this very quickly, family. It states here that Saudi Arabia's decision to join the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, also known as SCO, has come amid a wave of diplomatic initiatives in the Middle East, bringing regional power closer to China and Russia. The decision reached Wednesday through a memorandum approved by the Saudi cabinet would establish Red Eye as an official dialogue partner of SCO. And you see, you have all these countries, China, India, Kazakhstan, Pakistan, Uzbekistan, all these countries. It also includes Armenia, Azerbaijan, Cambodia, Egypt, Nepal, Qatar, Sri Lanka, and Turkey. They're looking at Afghanistan as an observer because the Taliban has taken over Afghanistan. So they really haven't established what we would like to believe, what we call a formal government. Then you also have Belarus and Mongolia, right? It comes out here that states that Tehran, which is the capital city of Iran or Iran, however you want to pronounce it, was the most recent to see its status upgraded from observer to full member in the September Radah's decision came weeks after a China-broken deal to resume Iran-Saudi diplomatic ties. Okay, and when we look at all these countries, family, these are like the stepchildren of the UK. Those countries outside of Germany, those countries outside of France and Belgium and Norway and Iceland, Sweden, so on and so forth, right? England. For Saudi Arabia, the move is the latest step towards rebalancing its power relation that has been traditionally dominated by its ties with the United States. Now, my brother and I, we were speaking about this. Can you hear me? K-Dub, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. So I was telling the family here that we was having discussion about the ties that all these countries are making within the BRICS organization in order to topple the American government and we no longer be the superpower of the world, and our currency or our fiat currency be pretty much labeled as worthless, like doodle paper. What are your thoughts on that?
It's already worthless.
Hold on. Most countries do you have me on Bluetooth?
It's terrible.
K-Dub, do you have me on Bluetooth?
No.
There's a lot of bumping and noise. I can't even hear you clearly. Please take me off of Bluetooth and just see if you can. I know you're driving. Somewhat hold your phone because there's a lot of reverb and echoing.
Can you hear me now?
It's a little better. Go ahead.
No, you still can't hear me.
I can hear you. Go ahead.
All right.
Again, family.
Yes.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that. I just so you want to just call back on the phone?
Yeah, just call me back on the phone. All right, he's having technical difficulties, family. But anyway, well, we was talking about how these countries are forming up together, and I won't necessarily say against the U.S., but what they're getting tired of the Western power structure of the domination of everybody's currency put in together. And what they're trying to do is take the world back to the number one currency, which is gold, basing dollars off the gold standard, meaning that the amount of gold that you have in your reserve, meaning that the amount of gold that you have in your deposit is the representation of your fiat dollar that's in operation within your economy. That means for every gold bullion, would it be $3,000? That's how many dollars that you have circulate in your country, not as well as America. Does America have $32 trillion in gold? The world never knows, because back in 1971, Nixon turned the American-based dollar from gold to fiat, meaning that we don't need gold to solidify our dollars of its worth. We are a superpower. We are the monetary sovereign, and we can decide what's which. Hold on, family. I don't know what's going on here. I'm All right, sorry for that, family. So I'm having my brother on the line here, and what's your thoughts on the BRICS and what are they joining together to form, essentially?
Oh, I was just saying that the BRICS and most of the countries earlier this year, they stopped trading the U.S. currency because it's backed by nothing. And the BRICS nations are, hold on, I can't, it's like a reverb, bro. But yeah, long story short, man, the money is actually valuable again in those nations. And by virtue of that, the fiat is already dead. It's just a matter of formally going through the motion.
All right, Keith, you having some sound issues. We'll have to pick this up later since I'm live. Yeah, family, he's having a lot of issues, and I don't want to slow up the video. But there's a lot of countries that's wanting to join BRICS, which is going to be dire to America. And one of the solutions I believe that America may have to consider is to get in bed in a similar coalition with sub-Saharan African countries, dark melanated people, where all the resources is, because the list of these countries, family, and I don't know if we go back here, look at some of these countries: Egypt, Nepal, Qatar, Sri Lanka, and Turkey, right? So of course, Egypt is part of that Northern African that was essentially, centuries ago, that was taken over by the Arabs from the Middle East. They came over because essentially the original Egyptians were dark melanated skinned people like myself. Do the research. Nonetheless, that North Emirates, and start to look for countries like Morocco and Tunisia to actually join BRICS as well. But the sub-Saharan African countries where the dark melanated people live at, these are the countries with the majority of the resources. Now we have Zimbabwe, also known as Zim. They have large deposit of resources all around the countries. And yeah, some African countries have larger reserves and deposits of different sorts of currency. We convert those things into resources as other countries. But listen to this. Zimbabwe wants to join BRICS. It said it has made overtures to join emerging economies that make up the BRICS bloc as part of its engagement and re-engagement in thrust, which is particularly designed to increase the country's clout.
K-Dub joined.
Okay, originally compromising Brazil, Russia, India, and China and South Africa, the group has over the years expanded to be known as BRICS Plus by incorporating other nations outside the 5 members. In the week's installment, you got the president of Zimbabwe stands to profit from belonging to many groupings in the world, using such groupings all the time to increase her clout globally. What's going on, K-Dub? What's on your mind, brother?
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you clearly now. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Just to add on to what you were saying, bro. Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, those guys tried to bring the world back to gold standard, and they were killed. But somehow, some way, the BRICS countries are able to achieve that. You know what I mean?
I'm with you.
Go ahead, bro.
What we're trying to do is define the problem and some potential solutions for America, because once these countries join up, and the difference maker here, family, is that when you look at these BRICS countries, I'm going to show you again. I want you, if anybody can figure it out what I figured out, there's simply no white nation with the exception of Russia. And some Russians don't even consider themselves white, even though they look like white men. But nonetheless, the only country that we were talking about earlier, the possibility of Germany joining. Germany essentially wants to join the BRICS. But if you notice that any of these countries, these are kind of like the bastard children of the UK. These are like the outcasts or the distant cousins of your France, your Portugal, your Spain, any country that Ireland, Scotland, all these white countries, Norway, the Danish, New Zealand, so on and forth. So not New Zealand, but the countries I'm referring to, family. These super white countries, which is considered the Western powers with the inclusion of America, these countries are like the bastard children that are excluded. And these are some of the poorest countries in Europe as well as in the Asian world. Guess what countries you don't see here when we're talking about Asia? That's what countries you don't see here. You don't see Korea and you don't see Japan, which are major players in the global economy, especially with their GDP amounts. But you see countries that have always been the outcasts, like China, like Russia, countries that's always been teeter-tottering back and forth or in some sort of neutral political, economic, or even Cold War position with America, right? And they kind of been a stand aside with European powers. And that's why you have all these NATO countries that are in bed with America giving all the support to Ukraine, because Ukraine, who was the initiator and the founder and creator of the Soviet Union, no longer wants Russia to be formulated to create the Soviet Union once again. And these are the ties, the power struggles, and economic structures that we have to understand, because the American dollar here in the next 5 years could be rendered worthless. And if you guys remember when this China was labeled Financial Literacy 101, I told you guys you should buy a little gold, you should buy a little silver. Well, this is coming into fruition because with these mutual agreements that they're going to build, they're going to build back the barter system, and they're going to build back the system where their dollars are going to be based upon the gold deposit and gold reserves that they have in their country. I see Jay the Informant, Jermaine Anderson. I see my brother Laverne Gibbs in the room. I see one brother. So what's your thoughts on what I just stated there, K-Dub? What's on your mind?
Yeah, so by virtue of the fiat dollar in the way, that alleviates the cost of doing business. Gold is not inflatable. It's the regular, it's its value. So I heard talk about them going back to 1950s prices. You know what I mean? Like where you're paying $1 for a dozen of eggs. You know what I mean? Houses that cost 800,000 are now going to be worth like maybe 80,000 in gold. So it'll be a lot easier to live and survive. Life won't be as hard. Can you hear me okay? Because I'm.
Oh, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, good. So yeah. So the fiat is just, and earlier, 1913, when this whole system started to arise, everybody had to turn in their gold. The value of the dollar at 100%, and the United States was the reserve currency, and it put everybody in a debt system. Today, the value of the dollar is like 1.6 cents. And then the rest of it is interest that you're paying for using that monetary system. So it's already dead, it's already lost its value. And it's just a matter of the BRICS nations building to just outright replace the dollar. And that
when we're talking about other countries, family, that wants to join the BRICS. And again, the BRICS is an acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. But all these other countries are going to come under the term BRICS, or they may use a different name. I don't know. But right now we're just using BRICS. Now, this is very interesting because I didn't know this until I just did the research, or let's just Googled it. Algeria is also part of North Africa, because countries like Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt, they consider themselves somewhat of a white. If you look up people from northern Moroccans, they look white. If you look up Algerians, they look white. If you look up Egyptians, they look kind of a mix between Arabic, white, and Middle Eastern, which essentially they're Middle Eastern, right? But nonetheless, when we look at these countries, Argentina, which is a white Latino country, Bahrain, Bangladesh, Belarus, Indonesia, Mexico, Nigeria. Okay, if Nigeria joins the BRICS, this is going to be huge. We have Sudan, Syria, the UAE, Venezuela, and Zimbabwe. Now, I'm going to tell you this, family. America has to make some major money moves in order to stay in power, or we will be toppled. And the US dollar will be rendered worthless. I'm going to tell you why. We do major deals with Saudi Arabia. If Saudi Arabia joined the BRICS and turn and essentially go back to a gold standard, where America, we're $32 trillion in debt, and we have bonds all over the place that people essentially has parts of the government, and the government supposed to give them 3 to 4% on their return. What do you believe is going to happen, family? Because America does not operate off the gold standard anymore. We don't even know how much gold America has because they kept that part quiet, secret. Now, some people are saying that, oh, America doesn't have any gold. I don't believe that's true. I do believe we have lots of gold, but we don't know how much it's worth. And we also have to factor in that America is a monetary sovereign, right? They determine, all these Western powers, not African powers, not Eastern powers, not Middle Eastern powers, their worth in the worth of their money is dependent upon the resources they have in their country. Where in America, we're going to say, you know what, the dollar is number one. As long as we got the UK, France, and some other European white countries to go along with that rhetoric, then the American dollar has always been number one. But now Saudi Arabia is stating that we're actually thinking about joining the BRICS. Why did I say that? Because again, they're joining this Shanghai Corporation organization that's one step away from being part of the BRICS. This is huge, family. This is huge. And we talked about a lot of these financial issues early on, and people didn't know what the hell I was talking about. My brother and I, we've always been keeping an eye on these things, and we've had debates going back and forth. But now these things are becoming surreal to a point that everybody should be paying attention. Everybody should be paying attention, because a lot of you is like, man, buy no damn gold, ain't buy no damn silver. But here's the thing, gold and silver, once they have these mutual agreements where they start going back to NGOs, non-governmental organizations, where these governments are not determining how much things are worth, where the market will determine how much these things are worth, gold and silver will be important again. It's kind of like that dude, Robert Kiyosaki, talking about that stocks are fake and these are fake. And if you notice, I kind of changed this platform because as I became more educated and seeing these things come into fruition, I really stopped giving so much investment advice when it comes to paper stocks, as some people will label, and start getting to in real investments, meaning that in resources, tangible things, because I used to give so much, even though I'm still somewhat invested in a stock market because I think there's money there. But believe me, family, I have moves on the upbringing when the stock market at least gets back to a surplus level where I've regained the amount that I essentially lost. I'll just kind of give you a quick hint here. I may be cashing out and start buying real property. Okay. What I mean is real tangible things that are investments that if all of a sudden this economic system poof and goes away, my real property or my real tangible items will not. They'll still be worth something. What are your thoughts, K-Dub?
Yeah. Like with the S&P lab, the writing is on the wall. If you don't hold it, don't own it. Period.
You sound like you one of the new avatars. You sound like you underwater.
I don't. This connection app. Yeah. But
anyway, family, I think keeping our eyes on this. Oh, go ahead, K-Dub. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying. It's
but you don't hold it in.
It's not.
That's the way we need to go back to that way of thinking.
All right. But anyway, family, very quickly here, didn't want to go too long. I just wanted you guys to be aware of this. I kind of threw this together very quickly, but I think it's important. Once I saw that Saudi Arabia was joining the SCO and possibly even thinking about joining the BRICS, to me, this is headline news because it has to do with the very dollar that you have been saving and investing and busting your ass to make, that it may be deemed worthless here in the next 5 years, depending on the countries that join. Either way, you guys have a great night.